Daf Yomi, Tractate Chullin, page 2b, top of the page, with the words Aval Amar Hare Alai Lo. Aval Amar Hare Alai Lo. But in the case of one who vows and says, it is incumbent upon me to bring an offering, even Rabbi Yehuda concedes that no, it is best not to vow at all. Likewise, it is preferable not to vow to donate a certain monetary value to the temple treasury. Apparently, then, the statements in that Mishnah, everyone takes vows of valuation and everyone vows to donate the assessment of a person to the temple treasury, do not indicate that it is permitted to do so ab initio. Hakol lav chatchilahu, ela kol chayovim b'suko, hakol chayov mitzitzis, hachinami de lav lechatchilo. Rav Ashi responded, and is that to say that every use of the term everyone is an indication that the action in question is not permitted ab initio? Rather, is the term everyone in the Braita that states everyone is obligated in the mitzvah of sukkah, and in the Braita that states everyone is obligated in the mitzvah of ritual fringes, tzitzit, and also an indication that they are not permitted ab initio, chayavim lo kamina ela be'ata. Hakol somchin ela hanashim ve'echad hanashim hachinami delav lechatchila ve'hochisi v'samach yodeh v'nirtzo. Rav Acha answered, I am not speaking about cases where it is stated everyone is obligated, as it goes without saying that fulfilling any obligation is permitted ab initio. Rav Ashi asked if that is so, that which was stated, everyone who brings an offering places hands on the animal, both men and women, Simanach 93a. Is that also an expression indicating that it is not permitted ab initio? But isn't it written, and he shall place his hand upon the head of the burnt offering, and it shall be accepted for him to effect atonement for him? Leviticus 1:4. In Ika kol lechatchila, Ika kol yavad, ela hakol dehachomimai delechatchila, hu detik shelach, dilma diavad hu, vela tik shelach. Rav Acha answered, indeed, there are instances where the word everyone indicates ab initio, and there are instances where the word everyone indicates after the fact. Rather, concerning the term everyone that appears here in the Mishnah, from where can it be determined that it is an expression indicating that it is permitted ab initio, creating an apparent contradiction in the Mishnah that will be difficult for you? Perhaps it is an expression indicating that everyone's slaughter is valid after the fact, and there will not be a contradiction in the Mishnah that will be difficult for you. Amar le ana shchitatan kisheira kashali midiketani shchitatan kisheira diavad miklal deakol lechatchilahu diavad tarte diavad damali. Rav Ashi said to Rav Acha, I find the phrase and their slaughter is valid to be difficult for me from the fact that the Tana teaches and their slaughter is valid, which is an expression indicating that it is valid after the fact. Conclude by inference that the initial phrase in the Mishnah, everyone slaughters, is an expression indicating that it is permitted ab initio, as if it indicated that it is valid after the fact. Why do I need two phrases teaching that it is valid after the fact? Amar Rabba bar Ula הכי קטן יהיה כל שוי חטין, ואפילו טמא וחולין. טמא וחולין, מיילה ממרא, וחולין שנעשו על טהרס הקודש. וכוסוב החולין שנעשו על טהרס הקודש כקודש דמו. Rabbi Bar Ula said, in resolution of the conflict in the Mishnah, that this is what the Mishnah is teaching. Everyone slaughters, and even a ritually impure person may slaughter a non-sacred animal ab initio. The Gemara interjects, what is the purpose of stating that a ritually impure person may slaughter a non-sacred animal ab initio? There is no prohibition against rendering a non-sacred meat impure. The Gemara answers that the reference is to non-sacred animals that were being prepared according to the strictures of sacrificial food, and the Tana holds that the halakhic status of non-sacred foods that were prepared according to the strictures of sacrificial food is like that of sacrificial food insofar as it is prohibited to render such food impure. Maybe Sakina Uka Vishoichet Ba Kedei Shelo Yiga B'Basal. The Gemara asks, how does an impure person act in order to ensure that he will not render the flesh of a slaughtered animal impure? The Gemara answers, he brings a long knife and slaughters the animal with it, so that he will not come into contact with the flesh of the slaughtered animal. Uvemikdashim lo yishchot shema yiga bebaso im shachat oimel bari li shelo nagati shchitaso keshera. Rabbi Bar Ula continues his interpretation of the Mishnah, and the reason the Mishnah also indicates that he may not slaughter ab initio is with that regard. That with regard to sacrificial animals, he may not slaughter them ab initio even with a long knife, lest he come into contact with the flesh. But if he slaughters the sacrificial animal and says, it is clear to me that I did not come into contact with the flesh, his slaughter is valid after the fact. Chutz mecher shoyte v'koton afilu v'chulin gredi de'avad namila shema yishu shema yidresu v'shema yachalidu. And it teaches, this is the halacha with regard to all people except for Daf Yomi and Basalon minor, who even if they slaughter only non-sacred animals, their slaughter is not valid even after the fact. The reason the sages deem such slaughter not valid is lest people in these categories interrupt the slaughter, lest they press the knife in the course of slaughter, lest they conceal the knife beneath the windpipe or the gullet in the course of an inverted slaughter. V'chulan shishachatu aheya ahey ilema acher shedvekatun alei kai alakom v'im shachatu mibayele ela tave b'chorid havei lechatchila mishachit. The Gemara asks, if so, with regard to the clause that follows in the Mishnah, and any of them who slaughtered an animal and others see and supervise them, their slaughter is valid. To which case in the Mishnah is it referring? If we say that the reference is to the case of a Daf Yomi and in Basalon minor, why was it formulated? And any of them who slaughtered, since it stands adjacent to that halacha, the Tana should have formulated the phrase, and if they slaughtered. Rather, perhaps the reference is to the case of a ritually impure person who slaughtered a non-sacred animal. The Gemara rejects that possibility as well. But didn't you say in that case he slaughters the animal even ab initio? Ela tame b'mukdashim b'barili sagi b'barili sagi. Where were we? There we go. Barley Sagi, Delese Kamandi Nishalai. And rather perhaps the references to the case of a ritually impure person who slaughtered a sacrificial animal. The Gemara rejects that possibility, as in that case, if the ritually impure person says, "It is clear to me that I did not come into contact with the flesh," it is sufficient and there is no need for supervision. The Gemara answers, supervision is necessary in the case of a ritually impure person who slaughtered a sacrificial animal to account for a case where the ritually impure person is not before us, so that we can ask him whether he came into contact with the flesh. Hai tama min mukdashim mehacha nafka mehasam nafka kol hapesulim sheshachatu shchitatam keshero שהשחיטה כשרה בזרים ונשמו ועבדו וטמאים ואפילו בקודש הקדושים ובלבד שלא יהיו טמאים נוגעים בבשר. The Gemara asks, is this halacha of a ritually impure person who slaughtered a sacrificial animal learned from an analysis of the Mishnah here? It is learned explicitly from the Mishnah there in Zvachim 31b. With regard to all those who are unfit for temple service, who slaughtered an offering, their offering is valid. As the slaughter of an offering is valid ab initio when performed even by non-priests, by women, by Canaanite slaves, by ritually impure individuals, and this is the halacha even with regard to offerings of the most sacred order, provided the ritually impure will not touch the flesh of the unslaughtered animal, thereby rendering it impure. Acha ikar hasam aidi ditana shar psulin tananami ditana shar psulin tananami tamim bimukdashim. Hasam ikar bekadashim koi hacha ID ditana tame bechulhin tani nami tame mukdashim. The Gemara answers, the Mishnah here is the primary source. Since the Tana taught the rest of those disqualified for temple service, he taught the case of a ritually impure person who slaughtered a sacrificial animal as well. And if you wish, say instead that the Mishnah there is the primary source, as it is standing in Tractate Zvachim, which deals with the sacrificial animals. Here, since the Tana taught the case of a ritually impure person who slaughtered a non-sacred animal, he also teaches the case of a ritually impure person who slaughtered a sacrificial animal. The Gemara asks, this ritually impure person mentioned in the Mishnah is one who became impure with what form of impurity? If we say that he became impure with the impurity imparted by a corpse, this is difficult, as the Merciful One states, and whoever is in the open field touches one slain with a sword. Numbers 19:16, to be continued. We'll go over this, God willing, in the next daf.